Who would have thought brothers in business are also love experts? Or not?
About to find out.
I think it's an important one. I think I see a lot of people now in business and in life, I think they do attribute the success of their business, success of their lives massively down to their families and massively down to the people that they hold nearest and dearest to them. And I think it's going to be a sad time for a lot of our generation, and I'm hoping that it gets better and that we're all just late bloomers and that we're late to the party for relationships and meaningful connections with people. But the recyclic nature now of relationships and how everybody is so quick to just move on and trade up or trade down and grass is greener on the other side. I feel like a lot of people from our generation are going to find themselves in a very lonely place as they get to their later years, unless there's like a new version of senior Tinder or pension Tinder.
Or robots take over.
Or robots, if we even make it that far. But I think a lot of people, and you see so many videos, again, within families that we all mostly, have families, hopefully, that we're still close to, and everybody has that nan or granddad or older uncle or someone or even parent that is at that age now where their focuses have stopped becoming about work and providing, and, they've done that portion of their life, and they're now in the space of looking to reflect on their lives because they're under the obvious impression that they've lived more of their life than they have left. And so I think when you find yourself in that position, then you do start to make more reflective decisions and more potentially selfish decisions. You think, right, well, what do I truly care about? What has my life been about? And what has been my purpose? And you try and find it all out. And for most people, I would say, again, that I know, that I've spoke to, that I've seen firsthand, that purpose is family. And people are less bothered about their businesses, their legacy, the Ferrari they once owned, or the watch they had, or the bag that they had, or the pair of shoes that they had. And people are only bothered about family. And fortunately enough, our parents, and unfortunately, I think we were the generation where it was certainly more normal for us to know of a parent that was divorced. But our generation are going to be even worse.
Yeah, and the one before that, or the one next, is even more fucked.
Yeah, exactly. So the question that I ask myself is, in this modern day relationship, the modern day of relationships, like, how will it look in 30 years when people are alone, essentially, and they haven't got that one person that they've built a life with and had a life with, and they might not have any kids, or they might not. And if they do have kids, they've not really been as involved as they should have done. So you then get to that end of days and you think to yourself, what was I doing and what mistakes did I make? And I think that's the one trick that we're missing as a society now in our generation. It's all very focused on the now and not worried too much about the future, I guess.
Yeah, well, you said that and then it reminded me back to the speech Gary Vee gave. Do you remember what he said? Like he had his predictions and it was 10 years. He said 10 years from now, people are going to be in relationships with people that aren't, with non-humans. And he said it's already started in places like Japan. And it's kind of like, that's where it's going, because people just don't or can't be asked to hold down relationships because it's not easy. you're never going to have a relationship that's perfect. It doesn't exist. And I think, again, people compare relationships to what perfection is. And if you do that, you're always going to be setting yourself up for disappointment. And I think one of the other big problems that we've had at the minute is with things like Tinder, we've just been completely, it's almost been gamified, like dating. You know, like I remember, you know, when I was single, you kind of go on like Tinder and it's like swiping left, swiping right, and then you can see your like counter, and then it's almost like opening FIFA packs. It was kind of like you go, like, oh, I got a match, and it's like all confetti and all this. It's like, hey, got that once every 100, but then you sort of carry on. But then it's kind of like, and it's just, and you just end up like doom scrolling on your phone, just like yes, no, yes, yes, no, no, yes, no, and it's just like, you know, you can't form relationships with that being your mindset where it's just so gamified.
It is too easy, isn't it? And that is the unfortunate reality now, where again, because standards have dropped as well. And unfortunately, look, I'm a straight guy, and so it's, you know, my experiences with speaking to women and their experiences then with potentially past relationships and how they've gone on, but then also speaking to my mates and seeing how they've operated, and the standards have never been so low. And that's because the opportunity is, and because it's become so easy. Whereas like back in our parents' generation, there was this whole idea of courtship and having to, and then you go back even further and you go and watch sort of shit TV like Bridgerton that was forced to watch for a few episodes. And quickly got stopped. But you know, there was indications of interest, and there was like a whole negotiation that had to happen, and there was effort that had to be put in, and it was done over a period of time, and there was such a big deal made out of going, let's say, after someone that you were interested in. Now, like you've said, it's just a swipe. Oh yeah, you'll do. And like it's so
copy
easy.
And paste the message a few times.
Yeah, you're saying the same thing, having the same conversations, because there's so many conversations being had, so nothing is rare anymore. It's all so common and easy. And so because you know it's so easy to reattain, you just kind of go, bored. And that's a very sad thing that's certainly happening. But because of that, the availability, people don't need to put effort in anymore. And the standards are becoming so low. Like I hear women, like, you know, I'll go on dates and they'll say things like, so like, yeah, like I've never had anybody open a car door for me, and I'm like, that is mind blowing to me. But that's because why the fuck should they? Because they're not bothered. They don't need to. Because I genuinely believe that women set the standards, and they hold all the cards, because they're the ones that accept. Really, they're the ones being chased. They're not doing the chasing for the most part.
Yeah,
and so they set the standards, and because they've allowed the standards to slip, and they've allowed men to basically get away with doing the bare minimum, then men have kind of just gone, well, I don't need to try and I can still get what I want. Then why would I bother? What's the point in me having a good job and a good like drive and being a gentleman and being chivalrous and doing all these things if just because you don't like it, well, her over there, she don't care about me doing all of that, so I don't need to bother. And so then you kind of think, well, what's the point? You know what I mean? So the standards have slipped massively.
Yeah, and you can cast such a big net. I mean, you know, you can go on like these things like Tinder, and it's like put yourself in Australia or where all around the world, and it's just like, oh yeah. I mean, there was that story of that. Was he a gamer that you told me about? There was a weather woman or something in Australia, or
oh my god, ages ago.
Yeah, and like in
Mexico.
And he messaged her or something. You know the story. To be fair,
I can't vaguely now. Was it? Oh, I think Yannette Garcia. I think that was the name. And he was a guy, member of FaZe or something. We're talking 10 years ago now, and he just fancied this woman in Mexico, and she was a weather reporter, and eventually they got together. But
crazy, but like
internet.
But it just shows you that, you know, the scope that people can go to. So it's like, you know, if it's like, oh well, in the past you're fishing in such a small pond, it's just like, you know, couldn't, you know, jump on your horse and just ride to bloody Manchester. You could, but it might take you a while.
Yeah, it's a good point. And like you said, but that then forced you to have a tighter and stronger pool of competition in a sense, because it was like, right, well, this is the fairest maiden in our land. And so like if I want to get her, then I've got to be the best guy. I've got to be the best man, which means I've got to work hard and I've got to have a kingdom that she would be interested in becoming a part of, metaphorically. You know, like I said, I've got a good job, good career, good morals, good ethics, good values, good family, and all these things. I'm caring, all that, and ticking all these boxes. Whereas now, and it's like, well, if I wanted her and if I wanted to get all of her, then I'd have to do those things. Whereas now, if I want to get all of her, I have to pay a £5 OnlyFans subscription. And do you know what I mean? It's this ease of access now where it just makes people go, right, well, why would I pay and why would I put effort into you when I could literally in 2 seconds pay £5 on OnlyFans and get her? And like you said, the choice and accessibility is so open and easy now. People have just stopped bothering. And that includes women, but I think women are the ones that are allowing the men to be substandard and still accepting it. So, you know, never mind the feminism movement. I think you all need to come together and start to tell men to sort their shit out and stop being so easy. I've just thought, how are people going to learn about business if they're not subscribed to the Brothers in Business podcast?
It's a really good point. They're going to need to subscribe.
Hit the button.
You know, the generation above teaches the one below, and then obviously that continues and continues. And there's just been a slide in, like you say, just the standard. And I know that we were taught and brought up in a way which it was, you know, be chivalrous and open doors and pay for the first dates. I mean, again, I watched a program last night, and the guy was on there he goes, I went to Nando's and I made the girl bank transfer me half the bill from Nando's, and it was like, fucking Nando's, how much could that have been? So I'd like having like bottles of wine on the bloody bill. So it's just outrageous. It's just
on the flip to that though, like you said, it's like because now women are pushing for this equality, but also again we've had this new wave of, well, now in a household, generally both people have to work because of the cost of living. So because of the actual state of the economy, and two people now have to work, and by all accounts, that means women want to work, which is great. I'm all a big advocate for that. I'm an advocate for people wanting to follow their own path. Wicked, do what you want. But because of that and this cost of living, and that means that they're having to work and then also do all the other jobs as well. I mean, back in the day, you know, we're talking 50, 60 years ago, like it was only one person in the household needed to work, and that was usually the men. And that was simply all that needed to happen. And for a household to be not only to thrive, not only just be sustained, it was they could thrive. And now I suppose there's this thing where like women are working as well. So they're like equally again, like, well, and this is a great thing, and I'm not massively against this, but they're then thinking, well, I don't need a man, so I don't need to put up with their shit. So equally, I'm going to withdraw back as well. So it's like if you're, and this is kind of, I suppose, the opposite to what I was saying about the standards being set low. But it's then the good women are then separating from the men because they're like, well, I'm not putting up with your Nando's and your £20 order, so I'll just be alone because why would I settle for you? So there's this genuine sort of problem that we've got at the minute where men are basically saying, well, why should I put any effort into dealing with you because I've got so much choice now and I don't need to bother. And women are kind of going, well, you're a loser, so why would I bother with you? So you're kind of getting both sides kind of thinking that somebody's got to make a move somewhere to fix the situation, haven't they?
Yeah, of course. And I think this is where it's playing better to people's strengths. And, you know, men like in general to be a provider and women like to be looked after and cared for. So again, we've tried to like inverse these roles or like completely evenly distribute them. And it's far better to just go back to the way things were, at least societally, where you've got the men that have no choice but to start putting more effort in and taking a lead. Because at the moment, like I say, it's just all, I mean, there's that one app, Bumble, where women have to make the first move. So they have to send the first message, don't they, in that one? But, you know, it's all inverted. It's all crazy.
I'm just trying to think of the remedy for it because, I mean, who's just going to immediately go like, I mean, do men need to put their ideas up? I think we do. I think that's the big start of it where they should be first and foremost taking account for their own environment, their own actions, and how they are perceived. Like, we should be going to the gym, we should be fit, healthy, we should be able to look after ourselves and provide and do these things and protect and be capable. I think that's one of the biggest things that men should be, is resourceful, capable, be able to solve problems, handle stress. And most men now, again, it's like stress, you compare it to what the levels of stress that people had to go through 80 years ago in the middle of a trench fighting wars. It's nothing compared to people now who it's just like, lost my job and I'm really sad and I didn't prestige on Call of Duty and
cut in front of me and Greg.
So I don't know what to do. I'm just really stressed and I'm having a sad time, and it's like, you're taking the piss. Like, are you really taking the piss? But then people are going to jump on my back and say, like, how dare you diminish men's mental health because they need to talk and, like, the suffering is terrible. And it's like, well, yeah, of course. Like, two things can be true at the same time, that the people now are generally worse off at handling stress. And equally, we still need to be able to talk about the problems if we're having them. But I think there does need to be a big U-turn into where we're going, because what is going to happen, and I'm telling you now, and I mean this, and I'm coming from first-hand witnessing accounts of people that have been incredibly lonely in their old age, who have got nothing and no one because they've lived a life of selfishness and let's say uncare towards creating relationships and having meaningful relationships, and then being lonely and left with no one, to then the people that are fortunate enough to have their family around them at the end of days, when they're there thinking, do you know what, I've been so blessed to have my life, that I've still got you, the people that I love more than anyone around me, to see and to care for me in my final days and give me that comfort and, pride at the end of my life, where I can think that I've got you around me as a legacy that are going to carry on in my honor, and you're all here because of me. And that's what family's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And the shame is, it's kind of like on the first leg of the relationship, it's getting harder because it's just getting into the relationship in the first place because there's so much choice. But then it's also then ended up being more difficult when you're in the relationship, because then when things get really difficult, people then disperse as well anyway. Like, divorce rates being extremely high. And I think people need to work harder in keeping relationships formed and not just give up when things get tough. I mean, that's when they say it all the time about friends. It's like, your real friends are when, you're going through hard times and people stick around. And it's the same thing when in a relationship with a partner that, likely to get engaged and married and have kids with. When times get tough, you want to know that you can rely on that person to stick by you and stick by them through the tough times as well.
Do you think then that, I don't know who would govern this, whether it is governments, look at Australia, for example, with their ban on social media for under 16s. Do you think governments should get involved? Because there is a massive crisis at the minute of new births coming in, and the birth rate is massively declining. Certainly in places like South Korea, Japan, the third of they're in something like, I think it's 60 years or 100 years, that the South Korea will be their population will be a third of what it is today,
and they'll all be senior citizens.
And they'll all be
they can't support themselves.
Because no one is having children, because of this disconnection between people nowadays, and people are not having children, and that is the collapse. Imagine going through all that we've done as a species to collapse due to a birth rate problem where we aren't connecting anymore and having children.
And I think, well, I actually looked into it a while ago, and again, it's nothing to do with men or women or whatever, but what used to happen in school is women were taught different lessons to men in the main, and it was kind of like they were guided through to be becoming like mothers, and men were brought up to be providers. And so what would kind of happen is they'd both grow up, and then women would have kids at early 20s, like latest really, and they'd have more than one child. They'd have like 2 or 3, and then chances are, just through statistics, half of them you're going to have 1.5 men. So you have, you know, how it all works. You would have, like, again, majority of men, but because the birth rate was so high, women didn't need to work because there was that many more men flooding, like, society because of the birth rate being higher. If the birth rate's 3, you don't need as many women working because there's enough men to sustain the population of work, and everyone's young enough. So the pyramid of age kind of ends up like this, where it's like there's a small proportion of old people and a large majority of younger people. And if that continues, then the flow, it just flows upwards and society works. But because we've taught women and men to be so similar and get away from what they're good at, it's kind of like women now work and advocate for jobs. I mean, you only have to ask them in the street. It's like, oh, would you like a man in your life? Would you need a man? They're like, no, I don't need a man. Like, I don't need men in my life. I can get a job and I'm independent. It's like, it comes from schooling, really. It doesn't come from, you know, it's not the right place. It starts at schooling, and that needs to be changed.
Yeah, of course. But you've said that you've hit a good point, which is why the birth rate then falls, and then society or government then need to make a decision to import the people from somewhere. So we need the people. So we boost immigration, which means you're then bringing people in that are from other cultures, other countries, other backgrounds, other religions to then assimilate in. And sometimes it doesn't happen, and sometimes you get friction, which we've seen. But that is, again, another byproduct of not having the manpower to do the jobs and to uphold and maintain the quality of life within a booming civilization. It's the same thing in the animal kingdom. It's like where there is an abundance of resources, you will see that particular species that feed off that resource thrive. And then when there is a reduction in that resource, they will diminish. It's the same with us. It's like, you know, if we haven't got enough people to create the resources, then society as a whole suffers because we haven't got enough people. And that's why the government steps in and boosts immigration. So if you have a problem with immigration, go and have some kids.
Yeah, literally.
It's a remedy for it. It's like you said, at the minute we've got, as it stands in the UK, 21% of people pay for the entirety of the country in terms of tax. So you've got literally 15 million people within the UK are paying for the full 70. And it's a wild statistic. You go look it up, ChatGPT, if you want to look at the percentage, it's all there. And again, that would be spread more evenly if you've got a healthy birth rate. But again, sort of what I was asking earlier with regards to the government then, you know, and some of these apps and some of these things, do you think that who would get involved? Should they get involved? Because in countries like, they're banned in countries like Dubai or in the UAE. So places Dubai and Qatar and all of the countries within the United Arab Emirates, those apps are banned. Can't go on them unless you've got a VPN. Not that I've tried.
Nah.
But do you think the government should take an active role in looking at things like that and starting to understand the modern dynamic of relationships and seeing if they should intervene, or is it not their place to get involved? And that's when there's the argument of how much control or sway should a government have?
Yeah, see, for me, I don't ever really think government intervention is the answer, because it comes from control, and then it always can be used for manipulation when a party gets in that doesn't quite align with the way that it's currently done. They've got the power to then change something in another way, because if you've given them the power, they're never going to give it back. So, but for under 16s and social media, I do think that because you're not of age to make those decisions for yourself and form the proper opinions, I do think banning them is probably not a bad idea. But
so they should get involved.
So they should get involved with like minors, but not adult. Not adult. This is very Lord Mandelson. No, but they should get involved with, you know, protecting the younger people and the younger generation, because they're so easily influenced already by the things online. But when it comes to just outright banning dating apps for adults, no, I think it should have been taught properly from the education from when they were children upward.
Okay, good. Because I'm glad you said that. So I had to get a bit of a gotcha then, because you were saying about how the government shouldn't be involved, and then one of your big key points was that the government should reform education to make sure that we're teaching. So I do agree. I think that there's that starting place. But, really, how much do you want to be talking about dating and shoving dating and that advice? But I think maybe, like you said, it's more towards about, being, the characteristics and qualities of being a good man, and characteristics and qualities of being, a good woman. I think you need to understand both. I think, again, when there's that understanding of what's acceptable and what isn't, again, that helps reduce a number of things. Like, I'm hoping it would reduce things like, sexual abuse and that sort of domestic abuse and violence and hatred towards each other. And it would reduce that down because you start to understand a bit more of an empathetic approach from a younger age, what is acceptable and what isn't. And, it's just so many stories I hear now. It's like bloody sexual misconduct, bloody that bloke and his wife in the Coldplay concert, and sort of sexual harassment with bloody Rick and Morty. Was it the guy that was doing that sexual harassment? He's been told to leave. Do you know what I mean? It's everywhere at the minute, and it's like, again, it's just because there's a lack of respect, isn't there?
Yeah, and it, no one's a better policeman than a competent man, really. Like, if you're seeing abuse in a street and you're a guy that's got your shit together, like I know you've done it, and I've had words with people and I've seen it, and it's like, if you see some guy slap up the missus in the street, if that's done in front of like some guy who's a competent guy, got his shit together, it'd be like, excuse me, like what on earth's going on here? And whether or not it should or shouldn't, but I think in a society that's not something that's acceptable, and someone who has got their shit together would at least approach it and be like, what the fuck? What are you doing?
Yeah, it is a tough one. That is obviously a prime example of where having that respect on the one side is clearly there is none, and on the other side there's a guy that's seen something that by all accounts he doesn't agree with and stands up for what he believes in, which is important. But again, it does come back to this level of respect, doesn't it? And that's kind of gone respect for yourself, respect for the ones you care about, respect for your partners and your relationship, respect for that. And again, it's kind of gone. Respect, I think, is taught, certainly from like the parents and that age, we were taught respect. And I think that's a big thing as well now with parenting, because the government has got involved with parenting and what you can and can't do. I've seen threats of the government taking children out of their homes because a parent has decided to take their children on holiday too many times in a year, and it's abuse.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
And the other thing is as well, it's like you've got then parents that are, I mean, I don't want to I'm probably going to throw a bit of a curveball, but like they're not allowed to hit their children anymore. And that was a big thing where we were, we had a 3 strikes and you're out policy with our household. It was misbehave once, you get telling off, and do the same thing again. You get the second strike and the final strike, which is, I've told you twice now, pack it in and you know what's coming on the third. And if you're still fucking about by the 3 times, well then fuck around and find out, because we'd get a smack. Now, it wouldn't be done out of anger. It wouldn't be done out of anything other than this is a course correction and it's a lesson that you need to learn, and you're clearly not doing as you're told. So 2 times is enough to tell you to do as you're told. And if you're not, and the 3rd time, and it wasn't, we're never getting punched in the face, but it was a firm
haymaker,
a firm open palm smack around the ear, and that was what we got. And it soon teaches you respect. And then, for example, you see great videos online, and you said, and I love the comment about there's no better there's no better policing than a competent man. And I've seen videos of dads, and they're great videos. I'm sure you've seen them as well, where the son certainly just out and out disrespects the mom, and he's caught on camera, and the dad just like pipes up immediately, and it's like steps into action to defend his wife or defend his girlfriend or partner, and says like, "Don't you ever speak to my wife like that? Don't say she's your mom. Don't ever do that. How dare you?" And then they're taught through the right lessons what is acceptable and what isn't. But if you've got a family or a household where at school nobody does anything or says anything, or you disrespect a woman and it's like, well, whatever, no one's going to say anything, and you're at home and your the dad might be disrespecting the wife, or you disrespect your mom and nothing happens. It's like you're never taught that it's bad. So you end up with this lack of respect, not only just towards women, but then people in general.
Well, they say, didn't they? Strong men make good times make weak men, and weak men make bad times. Along them lines, I was basically about right, wasn't I?
Yeah, you're on the right lines. Yeah, it's right. It's strong men, easy times, and easy times create weak men. Yeah, and weak men create hard times. And this is the thing: we're in a time of weak men, unfortunately. So bring back the slap. Bring back the slap. I think it's our Brothers in Business new slogan. Bring back the slap. I think it's important. Respect needs to be taught, but then it also needs to be earned as well. It's not just given. And too many people now haven't got respect for themselves, respect for their families, respect for their friends, respect for their relationships. And it's either going to be a rocky road, it's going to be a steep slope down to the bottom, or we're either going to all course correct quickly with a slap, and we're going to hopefully see the error of our ways and start to do better, because otherwise what's going to happen is going to be a bunch of very lonely senior citizens that are going to be still sat swiping in their care homes on the adult or the pensioner version of Tinder. So don't let that be you. Have some respect, sort yourself out. Put more energy into yourself, put more energy into your relationships, and see what happens. Hopefully things will start to get better and flourish. But until then, thank you very much for watching. This is by no means dating advice or coaching advice. This is just what we believe to be correct. So if it all goes wrong, then don't blame us if you've got a divorce. So thanks for watching. Remember, hit subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll see you in the next one.